Talking Panthers free agency with Locked On Panthers host Julian Council. Julian, and just for people out there, it is 3 o'clock here on Monday, so things could and will change. But first order of business for us was the Panthers' first order of business. Jaycee Horn earning a 4-year contract extension from the team. The headline being he's the highest paid DB in league history. Julian, it seems the Panthers are just paying $25 million a year now instead of possibly more a year from now. Is that the way you kind of look at it?
Yeah, wow. Honestly, Nick, when I saw this deal, the fact that he is the highest paid DB in history of the NFL, I did not necessarily expect that. I did expect it to be around 23, potentially $24 million, which was the previous highest paid defensive back, that being Jalen Ramsey, making 24.1. But this is the right move for this organization. You got to go back to last May when they made the right decision to bet on Jaycee Horn, who had missed 29 out of the first 51 possible games in the first 3 years of his career here in Carolina. They decided to exercise that 5th-year option, which is going to pay him $12.4 million this upcoming season in 2025 instead of letting him go into that final year of his rookie deal. And now they are paid off by him going out there, playing healthy for 15 games, being a Pro Bowler, and now rewarding him with a contract that resets the market, makes him the highest paid DB in history of the NFL, and also makes him one of those franchise cornerstones along with Derrick Brown, who they paid $24 million just a year ago. So yes, it has become a trend in Carolina, but it's great to see, considering it had also become a trend that guys like Brian Burns, a homegrown talent, was traded away. Christian McCaffrey, a homegrown talent, was traded away. DJ Moore, a homegrown talent, was traded away. It makes sense now to keep those guys that you've drafted and developed and paying them the kind of money that they paid Derrick Brown and now it paid Jaycee Horn. So this is a positive trend in the right direction, I think, for Dan Morgan in this front office.
If you are somebody named M. Williams, Charlotte sports is fickle right now. Milton Williams kind of reminds us of Mark Williams, although he actually never made it to Charlotte. We thought Dan Morgan had a deal for the premier DT in the class and possibly top non-quarterback, but he's outbid by New England. What did you think of that whole 45 minutes on Twitter and then Blue Sky and everything else because nothing worked? And where does that leave the Panthers at that position now?
Yeah, a whirlwind, certainly, and tough having to go back over the Blue Sky, which I had not posted in on for 3 months, Nick, and then to go try to figure out what my password was, got back up there, and then to see the news and thinking that, wow, this is a coup for Carolina to get arguably one of the top, not just defensive tackles out on the market, one of the top players on the market here during free agency in the second hour of the legal negotiating period on a Monday, and then to find out later, okay, no, the deal's not done yet. That's what Diana Rossini, Athletic, was saying, and then finding out that it's not just the Panthers who are bidding for him, it's also the Cardinals and the Patriots came out there as a team that was known. And then at the end of the day, for this not to happen, it's certainly a gut punch for the organization, and it's certainly for the fans out there who are thinking that the Panthers were getting Milton Williams, who was one of the heroes of the Eagles Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs, with the 2 sacks, including a strip sack. He was excellent for them last season and would have fit in perfectly next to Derrick Brown. But $26 million, man. You just paid JC 25. He's a homegrown talent, and you just paid last year Derrick Brown 24. I understand that salary cap goes up every single year, but it does not make a lot of sense for Carolina, even with the need that they have, to be paying someone who has not been here and who has not produced at the level consistently that Derrick Brown has in his career in Carolina, more money than Derrick Brown. All that being said, this is still tough for Carolina. As you look at the defensive tackle market right now, and just free agency overall, a lot of guys just aren't making it to the market. B.J. Hill, he's staying in Cincinnati. DJ Jones, who spent time there in Denver. Jerry Rivera, he's staying with the Broncos as well. Oso Digizua stayed in Dallas, the Cowboys. Jaron Reed is staying in Seattle. So a lot of these players that would have made sense to Carolina, potentially, they're not making it to the market. And Poona Ford's another one who could have made sense, and he signed with another team. So it puts him in kind of a precarious situation to where it's early. Still plenty of time left throughout free agency to figure out what they're going to do there, but they may now be starting to look at the draft as where they could find a starter to come in there at the defensive tackle slot. So a whirlwind, but certainly disappointing for Carolina, but a crazy number that New England is out there throwing out to Milton Williams in what Dan Graziano of ESPN described as a bidding war.
Julian, I haven't seen much traction to this, but fans are, every time somebody gets posted for a trade or released. Yeah. Trey Hendrickson, any chance he's coming to Carolina via trade?
I I don't know about that one. It's interesting because you look at Cincinnati, they've been able to keep T. Higgins. They want to sign Jamar Chase to what they call the highest paid player who's non-quarterback now. Looking at what Myles Garrett just got, that's going to really make it difficult for them to do exactly what they said they were going to do a couple weeks ago, that being their general manager, Duke Tobin, up there. So they've signed all the guys that they wanted to keep around. BJ Hill, rather, they've kept him. So it's going to be difficult to get Trey Hendrickson the money that he's looking for, but it really depends on the trade market. And you look at the scheme that Carolina runs, Trey Hendrickson's been a 4-3 defensive end. He does not necessarily fit what they're trying to do as far as that 3-4 scheme and standing him up. So I wonder about that. Now, certainly you can try to mirror it around the talent that you have, and that's what the best defensive coordinators and play callers in football do. I just don't necessarily see it happening, considering what it's probably going to likely cost him also contract-wise. They didn't want to pay Milton Williams, who they got for free, effectively, $26 million per year. I don't know if they're going to want to pay Trey Hendrickson, who's probably looking at $32-33 million per year, and having to give up compensation to get him. It seems difficult to see that happening, and that may be a position, much like defensive tackle now, where Carolina has to focus on trying to get a younger talent through the draft and developing them into a top-tier end here in Carolina.
Julian, Carolina does lose out on the sweepstakes for defensive tackle Milton Williams, but they do scoop up a safety Monday afternoon as they completely look to renovate that room. What are your thoughts on the 3-year deal from Trevon Moehrig, a young ascending player who is with the Raiders?
Yeah, 3 years, apparently $17 million per year, and it makes sense. He's been a 4-year starter there with Las Vegas, and he's somebody who fills an immediate need. As you look at Xavier Woods, a free agent, he possibly could come back to Carolina. Nick Scott, Jordan Fuller, those three guys who are seen by Ajero Verla to DC here in Carolina as a trio of starters here at safety. All three of them are gone, so they need to bring somebody else in who could be a more sure tackler, which Trevon Moehrig has been during his time in the NFL with the Raiders. Also is somebody who can help you out in coverage as well. So this is a nice signing for a player getting his first real big deal in the NFL to fill a spot that was a significant need for Carolina. And you talk about that dog mentality. He's got that. Dan Morgan said when he got hired as a GM and president of football operations over a year ago, they're looking for dogs. Well, Trevon Moehrig is one of those here in Carolina. Is going to fill in pretty nicely. At least he should at that safety spot. And I would think penciled in with the second-year undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M, Demani Richardson.
All right, Julian, we've been focused on the defense, as the Panthers are and should be, but let's switch sides for a second. No DK Metcalf. He goes to Pittsburgh, which isn't that warm, going back to where he said he wanted to go. And no Chris Godwin, who is going back to Tampa. Is this receiver market just too rich for the Panthers' blood right now when they have to be so focused on fixing the defense?
Yeah, Pittsburgh is not warm. You're right about that, but they never have a losing record under Mike Tomlin. So he is at least guaranteed. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be, but he's at least guaranteed to win 9 games next season. So I suppose that's something that helped, along with the $30 million that Pittsburgh was willing to pay him. And I wonder, considering Carolina did not want to meet Milton Williams as far as contract demands, $26 million per year, if they didn't also want to do that with DK Metcalf. And certainly you would think they would want to keep that second-round pick, which is slide at 57th overall at the time being. But looking at the receiver market kind of goes with the defensive tackle market as well. A lot of these guys just aren't making it to the market. T. Higgins has been tagged for a second year in a row in Cincinnati, and it's possible that he could be tagged and traded, kind of like what Carolina did last year with Brian Burns, but that does not appear to be what Cincinnati wants to do. Hollywood Brown, he's staying there with the Chiefs for a second year in a row. Chris Godwin is staying down there in Tampa. So really it feels like what Carolina's going to have to do is just draft and develop their guys at receiver. They have Xavier Legette, who they traded up into the first round last year to get to be one of their starters for the future. He started last year, and hope is he'll take a next step heading into 2025. Jalen Coker, an undrafted guy out of Holy Cross as well, really impressed last season. So those two guys, they got to lean on them, and they may have to lean on this receiving draft class, which I'm not super high on right now, but certainly they can find somebody to come in here who can help raise the floor. And there's some other guys out there, maybe like a Darius Slayton, who could make sense as far as veterans go to come in with Coker, with Legette, and of course of Adam Thielen, who is entering in his final year of his deal here in Carolina. So it's tough out there as far as trying to find that top tier receiver, which I still think that they really should be trying to do. There's just not a lot of options, and like a lot of positions out there, the best case scenario for a lot of teams just to draft and develop and get those guys to be top tier and then re-sign them, kind of like what they've done with JC today and what they did last year with Derrick Brown.